Rodri is out for the rest of the season. And in this video, we're going to break down what it means for the Premier League title race and what it means for Guardiola going into the remainder of the season. It's so early. And we're talking about the best player in world football. The gap between Rodri and the second best DM, whoever it is, we can debate that maybe later in the video or in the comments, is bigger than the gap between any other position in world football. Rodri is defensively, in terms of what he does on the ball, in terms of his leadership, in terms of big goals. He's a bigger miss for Man City than if Erling Haaland, God forbid, was to get injured. Kevin De Bruyne, Phil Foden, Ruben Diaz. That's just my opinion. I think he's more important to City's success, to the 4 in a row, to the treble. Obviously scored the goal in the Champions League final. And obviously all these players, every player is important. Even if you play 1 minute throughout the whole season, you're still important on some level. But Rodri's importance for me is more than any other player in the Man City squad. This midfield, whoever it is, we'll talk about the repercussions for the starting 11, and we'll talk about a few different options that I've come up with that we could see throughout the remainder of the season. But ultimately, Kovacic, Ilkay Gundogan, they lack the legs, the physicality, the height in midfield. You could definitely argue they have a similar level of creativity in terms of technical guile on the ball. But even then, I dare say they don't have a similar weight of pass. They don't have this kind of calm, collected, assured way of controlling a midfield. Ilkay Gundogan can get little twists and turns and little flicks. He's great at arriving in the box and scoring goals and on the edge of the box. But what Rodri does from a deep position is outrageous, and he's built like a centre back. The way he wins the ball, and it's really sad. It's really sad on some level. This season's over for Man City, and I still think City can win something. But the height of where I thought City could go this season, and that's not me being greedy. I'm looking at it as a sporting project, as a footballing project. If Rodri and all these guys stay fit, which is always a big if, but an ACL to the best player at the club a month into the Premier League season is really, really unlucky. And I don't think City fans are going to cry about it too much because there's so much talent in the squad, but it is really unlucky, and it's a massive shame. It really is. Let's just talk about the stats of what Man City look like without Rodri. Games played with Rodri since 2023, 55. A win percentage of 80% of those 55, with 44 wins and loads of draws. 0 losses. City have lost 0 games since 2023, start of 2023, with Rodri starting a football match. I think that includes Real Madrid as well, where it obviously went to penalties in normal time. And then you look at Rodri missing from the Man City side, whether through minor injury or through suspension. 10 games since 2023, 5 wins, 5 losses. There are no draws. So the drop-off is stark. 50% difference, basically, to a side that win one every 2 games. That is outrageous. And Guardiola has to come up with something very, very quick. It's reminiscent of when City had no striker, and Guardiola came up with a system where Foden was playing false 9, Ilkay Gundogan was playing false 9, Raheem Sterling was. It didn't obviously last the test of time, because obviously you can't go into 4 or 5 seasons without a striker. You had to get Erling Haaland in. But he did create a system, actually, where the inverted fullback came into fruition, where he packed the midfield. Zinchenko came in, Fabian Delph as well, I think it was. A few others. The kind of inverted fullback system allowed him to play through when there wasn't that striker that's running deep. The midfielder kind of having that extra man in midfield created overloads, and actually at points City had so many midfielders arriving in the box without a striker that he developed a system where we still scored an unbelievable amount of goals without a striker. And Guardiola has to develop a system now where the ball moves through midfield as quick as Rodri was able to do it. The defensive prowess has to be as good now in midfield without Rodri. And there will be some debate about this within the City community, within the football community. How's the best way to do it? The first thing you have to say is that Kovacic is not a like-for-like replacement. He really isn't. You're going to have to double bank Kovacic with someone with legs. Obviously, Rico Lewis is one. You could have Kovacic at the base of midfield, Rico Lewis at right back, cutting in and coming into midfield. The issue is that clearly Guardiola doesn't quite trust Rico Lewis, didn't trust him in the Arsenal game, doesn't trust maybe that approach in big games, and I wouldn't either. You can obviously keep Rico Lewis or Carl Walker at right back, and my preferred system is just trusting Ilkay Gundogan at the base of midfield. It isn't ideal. It isn't like for like. There are City fans that talk about it quite glowingly when Ilkay Gundogan played at the base of midfield. I was never a fan. He always looks a little bit clunky. There are points where he had to play there with Bernardo Silva coming flat as well, and it was De Bruyne and playing as almost like a solo number 10. That works nicely, and I think City picked up a huge amount of wins when it was Bernardo Silva and Ilkay Gundogan at the base of midfield. But obviously, when City are looking at Champions League titles, hopefully, and a game against Arsenal at the Emirates, the big games against Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, yet to come. We're so early in the season. Do you want to be playing Ilkay Gundogan, Bernardo Silva at the base of midfield? Very small, very diminutive. So many of these sides now have got so much power. But my preferred solution in 90% of games would be Ilkay Gundogan at the base of midfield with De Bruyne and Phil Foden. I think the injury is a big moment for Phil Foden, weirdly. He wasn't trusted in the Arsenal game. I don't know how related that was to fitness off the Euros and his kind of cycle of coming back to full fitness. But now there's so many opportunities now. I think Phil Foden it's a big moment for him to step up yet again. He doesn't have to prove anything to me, of course not. But now it looks like Ilkay Gundogan will get taken out of the number 10 or the number 8 position and pushed back into a defensive midfielder role and at least rotated or playing alongside Kovacic every single week, then it's going to be De Bruyne and it's going to be Phil Foden. We look at De Bruyne, he's in that kind of age category now where he can't quite play every single minute. I think James McAtee is a really nice option when you're looking at some of the League Cup games, some of the FA Cup games, some of the latter stages of the Champions League. Obviously, there's extra minutes in that competition now with the extra games. And you have to remember that actually, there is still a lot of rotation there. Bernardo Silva can come into midfield as well. That's another one that I was thinking about. So I think in a big game, I think if we had to play Arsenal tomorrow, as an example, without Rodri, I think he'd play Ilkay Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, and Phil Foden. I really do. Obviously, De Bruyne's injured at the moment as well. I think that would be the most energetic. That would be the most high press. And I think he'd probably say to John Stones, who obviously looks a lot fitter than I thought he was, and obviously scored that massive goal against Arsenal for the 2-2 draw. I think he'd say come into midfield. We'll do a narrow 3. We'll play Carl Walker a little bit more so we can have that pace on at right back, and have John Stones step into midfield like he did in the treble winning season. John Stones and Ilkay Gundogan, that looks incredible to me always. And then you've got someone like Phil Foden. His energy is fantastic. We can debate other things about his game. Not much to debate. But Phil Foden's work rate, Bernardo Silva's work rate, it'll be incredible. And both can play at a very, very high level in midfield. That might be about it. I mean, depending on form, if you're playing maybe a tough European fixture away, I'm talking January, February, without reinforcements. Again, we maybe can debate in the comments if there should be reinforcements made to replace Rodri. I'm not so sure about that, but there is a debate there for sure. Is it Kovacic and Ilkay Gundogan as a kind of flat 4-2-3-1 almost, with De Bruyne or Phil Foden or Bernardo Silva as the lone number 10? You've got Savini on one side, Grealish on the other, Haaland down in the middle, and you're not losing too much. There'll be some big question marks for City in the next few weeks of how you go about rectifying what is a 1-in-2 win rate without Rodri in the last couple of years. That is outrageous. As a City fan, I can't think of any moment in the club's recent successful period of history where players mattered more. I think, dare I say it, I think the club lived without Aguero. I think the club lived when David Silva picked up injuries, little ones. Yaya Toure, Company. It's close to Company. The fall off when Company got injured defensively was absolutely shocking. You could really get at Mancini's sides. You could really get at Pellegrini's sides when Company was injured. And that, for me, is as close as it gets. It might be more important than that. I think Rodri's injury is more symbolic and it gives far more energy and enthusiasm to Arsenal's Premier League title campaign than they could ever have dreamed of. And I'm not saying they would have wanted that to happen, but it is massive and it's consequential. And I think Arsenal will be looking at it thinking this is a massive leveler, praying nothing happens to Saliba, one of those big guys, and seeing it as almost the Van Dijk situation when Van Dijk got injured and Liverpool fell right off a cliff. They'll be praying that this is as big as it can get for City in terms of a nail in the coffin for a Premier League title race 5 times in a row. And on some level, until I see a solution, it is very concerning. It's hard to express. It's very concerning how big a miss Rodri is. The way he brings the side together, the way he scores big goals, and the way he passes the ball, it is completely symptomatic of everything Guardiola tries to do. And I think he's a generational midfielder. It's as simple as that. It's as bad as when Steven Gerrard used to pick up injuries for Liverpool. It's as bad as any big name player in Premier League history getting injured. Roy Keane springs to mind when I saw the knee injury, the ACL. Obviously, Roy Keane picked up a big knee injury. I think he was quite young, wasn't he? And there's those famous clips of him training, and he's kind of on those kind of leg extension machines in the gym, and he's like smashing them out, and he's desperate to get back to it. And it took him close to a year to get him back to that level, and he came back. You can never doubt Rodri's professionalism and how good I think he will still be when he comes back. But it's depressing a little bit as well. It is depressing. An ACL injury can go really, really bad for footballers. Leroy Sané was never the same player. Not sure it's quite the same injury in terms of location on the knee, but it's horrible, and it's very, very, it's very existential really as a City fan, because he's our best player by a country mile. I think you put a false 9 in there. I think you play false 9 Phil Foden in last season. I think City still win the Premier League title with Rodri in the base of midfield. That's how important I think he has been. And there is obviously an irony that some people on Twitter are saying about how Rodri was pleading for kind of a bit more respite, not playing as many games, and now he's injured. Football can be a cruel sport sometimes. Let me know if what you think about that, how it affects the Premier League title race. Yeah. Long old night. Rodri injured. I'll see you very, very soon.